Hello everybody, here we go. I think we're all up and running now. And one more thing to do, and I think we're ready. We're good. Welcome to another live stream on a Wednesday this time. Mostly they've been on Fridays lately, but today, a little bit of a change. I'm doing one on a Wednesday. Please do let me know if you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching on Facebook, if you can see me okay, and if you can hear me. I think everything is set up right, but you never know. It looks good to me though. JKS says, I just noticed this comment. Hi Paul, the atmosphere reminds me of a Fantana tour. Well spotted. Well spotted. So what I'm doing today is I'm starting a new painting. These, those there, very beautiful roses, which I just got. David Austin roses called Bathsheba. Really beautiful variety. And I thought, being as I'm starting it today, I would be able to show you another use of the incredible chromaMagic tool, which I showed anyone who wasn't here last Friday? I think the last stream, Friday live, when I was showing how to use it to find the light and shadow colors for pansies. The painting is over there. So I probably will be doing a little bit of that today, but mostly what today is about, I wanted to show you the inspiration for this setup. And it's not, I mean, it is a flower painting by a very famous flower painter who you now know who it is. But it was the color scheme that interested me mostly. And this is one of the really useful things that I found about this chromaMagic tool, is that you can run photos through it, as long as they're good quality. So this one is, I got from a museum website, so I'm assuming that they've been very careful about the quality of the color in the photo. Granted, it's not going to be perfect, but what in life is. So I've run this painting through the tool. I've had a look at some of the colors, just to see what they are, what they really are, you know, in monster terms. Some of them pretty surprising, actually. Some of the stuff that Fantana tour did is pretty wild. And then I've put together a setup which is loosely influenced, let's say, by those colors. Shall I show you what I mean? Let me have a quick look at the comments and see who's here. Hello, Diane. Hello, Lisa. Ginny is here. Hala's here. Good to see you. Fran is here. Oh, there's a lot of people here. I'm not going to be able to catch up with everybody. We've got like I think probably about 100 people watching so far. Thank you very much for coming, everybody. I hope that the stream today will justify your interest in showing up. I'm going to switch over to something now to show you. Hopefully this is all going to work. I'm in a bit of a panic here, like I was last Friday, because I've got so much tech going on. There's so many little things to remember to show it off properly. It's just gone a little bit funny. I thought it might. Just give me a second here. Right, we got it. Okay, I'm gonna switch over to show you. Hopefully, if this works all right, I'm gonna switch over to show you. Yes, so this is the chromaMagic tool, and this is the painting that I put through it. It's not the only one. I've been on a bit of a binge putting paintings through this tool and seeing what they tell me about the colors. But this is really interesting. You know, one of the most interesting things about this is, like, if you haven't seen this tool and you weren't here on Friday, this tool is called chromaMagic. You can find it at chromaMagic.com. And it basically allows you to input a photograph, or you can even use like your camera. Sorry about that. I must remember not to switch between apps while I'm screen sharing to the screen. There's so much going on. But look, I can spot check around here and it will show me. Now this is like the Munsell version of the colors, you know, but it also gives you this, hopefully you can see my cursor waggling about a bit as well. You can see this down the bottom here, this color swatch. So even if you're not a Munsellite, even if you don't have any Munsell stuff at all, you know, this is really useful because it just shows you the color swatch on its own. So, you know, for instance, I can find out that number one, I mean, this background here is a lot lower chroma than you might think. By chroma, I mean intensity. It's a lot closer to gray than you might think, right? Now this is, the color in the background is kind of, it's an amalgam of different colors. But the overall visual effect is that color there. Because with this tool, you can set the sample size to the number of pixels, and I've got it on 20, I think, at the moment. Let's find out. Go into settings and see. Yeah, 20, there you go. On the right-hand side, did you see that jump across there? On the right-hand side, the value is the same, the hue is the same, but the chroma is higher. Isn't that interesting? But look at these beautiful roses. So I can spot check some of the colors in these roses. Now it's giving me 20 pixels at once. So it gives me a fair idea, you know, what colors these really are. Now this is really interesting because I've painted quite a lot of white roses myself, and they're always green yellows. They're never, they look white, but they're not white. They're always a version of green yellow. And look, Fantan's got it here. Of course he has. He's one of the best flower painters who ever lived. Slightly more warmer rose. More orange, this one here. And I want to show you something really interesting here. Let me zoom right in on this rose here. Look what he's done with these little color flecks here. Isn't that fascinating? If you zoom in on Fantin Latour's paintings, what you find, I need to click over to the side of it so we can see this better. What you find is that when you get close, they're incredibly abstract. He found a way to manipulate the paint to give the impression of flower forms from a distance. But when you look at them closely, they don't look believable at all. So this is an interesting thing because, you know, there's a potential, I wouldn't say it's a misuse of this app, but it could, if you want to paint more expressively, if you want to paint in a more kind of an impressionist way like this, it could end up tempting you to do ever more perfect copies of photos. If you're a photorealist, then great, you know, you've got it nailed with this app. But I think this app is also really useful, not just for finding out the colors of things, but also for finding out how people did painting. So what color is that he's used? Like, that's a pretty bright color, you know, it's a pretty intense color. The value is really high. And it's a fairly, not ridiculously intense. I mean, you could go more intense than that, but it's a fairly intense orange. You know, you might say, oh, well, is it a pink or is it, you know, this tool will tell you exactly what it is. You know, there's almost no form in this flower at all unless you really, really squint down. Zoom back out again. And it's a really convincing painting of a flower. What colors have we got here? You know, you might think, well, that's a bluish gray. No, it's actually yellow-orange, like so much of the world. What about the leaves? You know, what about this highlight on the leaf? Got to be green, right? Only just. Look at that. It's almost grey, almost grey. What about the colour of this leaf here? Again, almost grey. Really, really what we call low chroma. Okay, so that gives you an idea of some of the colours he's used. This colour down here in the shadow is really interesting because what you find quite often in daylight, which it looks like this was painted in, from life, obviously. Well, presumably, I don't know, I have a suspicion he might have used photos for drawing out. But pretty high chroma down here in the shadow, and also the hue is warmer. It's more towards orange. Up here in the light, it's cooler, more towards yellow, lighter and lower chroma. That's a basic rule for light and shadow in indoor situations. What about the glass? So I'm picking out, let's have a look at a detail of the glass up fairly close. See what colours he's used on the handle there. They look more intense. When you just look at them, they look more intense than they really are. And much of it is like, I mean, you know, this isn't even blue here. Your mind tells you it's blue because of these areas here. So you can see Fontana too, a lot of the time, a lot of things are quite close to neutral, and then he uses these little flecks of higher chroma to suggest the actual colours. Let's bring up that photo again that I'm working from today. Now, obviously it's different, but overall you can see I've basically gone for like the warm pinks and oranges of the flowers. And I'd just been running, I got these flowers a couple of days ago, and I'd just been looking through that painting, Fontana Tour, in the app. So it made me think of the blues and the greenish blues, low chroma greenish blues. So that's basically what I've got here in this little vase. But if you click over here, you know, again, it's the same. They're like yellows over here. It's only these little bits here and there where you really see the color, right? All of this is lower chroma than what Fantan used. And then the ribbon also really, really close to gray. A lot of this is close to gray. And my background is actually slightly different color from his, but similarly, it's all pretty low chroma. Okay, interesting, huh? So this is, it's a very different, it's a very different subject in a way. I mean, they're similar kind of flowers, although in a lot of ways it's quite different. The setup is very different. But here's the panel. I'm just going to start painting, right? So you can see on the palette here, let me tell you what I've got here. I'm going to catch up with the comments in a moment, but first let me tell you what I've got here on the palette. Lead white. I've got two yellows. I've got cad yellow and I've got cad yellow. Oh no, this is arrowlide yellow, but it's a green yellow. Cad yellow lemon would do. Why have I got those two? Because I was painting some daisies earlier on, and the yellow of the daisies in the middle was between those two. Permanent orange. Now that is there because it's quite high value, so if I mix that with white, it gives me a pinkish orange at a very high value and high chroma, the highest I can get. Quinacridone rose. These two are a pair. This is green gold and that's transparent red oxide. And the reason I use these an awful lot together is when I want to add chroma to almost neutrals, low down the value range. And then I can pull it more towards a yellow green, and I can pull it more towards a red orange. It gives me a wide range. Raw umber, ivory black. White, raw umber, ivory black. Like probably 80% of the colors that I use in almost every painting. And this is phthalo green, which is there because it's a part of the kind of the recipe, if you like, that I use for greens a lot. Okay, let me catch up quickly. Oh dear, the comments are firing again. I'm not going to be able to keep up. I'm really sorry. Hello, Robin, good to see you. I'm excited to do this too. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, this one. But I'm painting this like pretty much sort of alla prima, really. I haven't done a wipe out, I haven't done anything like that. I'm just going to steam in and fall flat on my face, you know, as you do when you try and do stuff like this live. What what else could happen? Linseed oil with a little bit of, actually, that's a bit thick because it's been stood there for a while. I'm going to refresh it. Linseed oil. I use cold pressed linseed oil. And this is a solvent. I use pure terps. Just a small amount of that. Not as much as the oil. I do it so that I end up, so that this layer, this oil layer that I'm about to put down will dry reasonably quickly. And I put the oil layer down because it helps the paint move but I want it to be very thin. This is an ampersand gesso board panel, and it's 10 inches by 8. So I'm just giving it a nice, this is a makeup sponge, by the way, really, really useful for oiling out and putting down a first layer of oil before painting in. I find these panels, they're all right just to work straight on, but they're a little bit absorbent, a little bit dry. The oil just helps the paint move. It helps me get the kind of brush strokes that I'm going to want to get. I don't want too much of it though, so I'm going to wipe it back. Hello Claire, I'm glad you finally caught me live. So I'm currently streaming every Friday at 5 p.m. UK time, which is 9 a.m. Pacific and I think 12 o'clock. Eastern. Let's start putting some paint down. I'm going to have to do a little bit of drawing. Now I've got a couple of colours mixed up here, little swatch colours of various areas. One of the things I'm going to be talking about today is simplifying the complex forms of flowers. So these are a way for me to think my way into the colours and to think about large areas of the painting and what I'm going to need there. Manjari, hi, it's good to see you. I hope I answered your questions earlier on in that email. Let me know. Hi Peter, nice to see you. Hi Ali. Who did the painting, says Kate? Fantin Latour, one of the finest ever flower painters. Now that's an interesting comment. Michelle says, close up those brush strokes. This is presumably going back to the Fantin Latour painting. The brush strokes are almost clumsy. I think when people would end up with that kind of effect, the only way you can get that kind of effect is by painting. You know, you're not looking at each individual mark. He's mastered the art of looking at the whole at once. The whole thing at once, right? Sorry, I'm just catching up quickly on the comments before I start putting some paint on. Interesting question. Linda says, how do you adjust colours if you paint this painting or a painting of ivory roses on a black canvas? I'm not 100% sure I understand the question. On a black canvas? You mean if you're starting with a black underpainting, you're painting onto a black ground? I think this may sound a little bold, but I think that's a bit of a crazy thing to do. Because oil paint is, by its nature, transparent. And it gets more transparent as it ages. So if you paint on a black ground, as your painting gets older, gradually it's going to lose colour. It's going to lose, the light values will get lower and lower and lower. Perhaps not the best idea. But, you know, maybe there's a way that someone does it that they can get around that. I'm not sure. Let's get some paint on here. So I'm thinking about what I generally do is I have I visualize a kind of grid. I'm gonna rough it out on here just so you could see. I mean, I'm not measuring this or anything, but you know, if I had a grid, it would be something like that, and then I'd be looking at this photo, looking for somewhere that I can start, like the bottom of the vase. It's probably going to be about here. I learned this way of doing things from when doing a lot of sight-size drawing, and it does help. The highest point of the flower is going to be up about there. You know, just trying to get an impression of the envelope that everything sits in. The furthest right point of the biggest flower on the right can be about here. Furthest left point is the flower at the top. Coming out about here, probably. Just reference points so hopefully I don't screw up too much. This flower coming up about there. Down. I find it extremely difficult to talk when I'm doing this part of a painting, like roughing things out. I wonder if it's because the parts of painting you're using perhaps different parts of mental processing, but whilst you're doing this, you're very much, there you go, couldn't finish the sentence. You're very much thinking in a spatial way. And I do wonder if that actually makes it a little bit harder to talk. So I'm just trying, mostly kind of a straight line blocking, just trying to get an idea of where things are going to go. Because I'm not wiping out this time, I'm working straight in. I do use the wipeout technique an awful lot. But for this painting, it seemed like its bright, breezy colour scheme, you know. I thought, well, maybe we'll just go in with the paint sometimes. Go in with the paint. Sometimes I do like to work that way. It's a bit high, maybe. A bit high. So here's a good tip for doing symmetrical things like vases. Find the center line. Even if the thing itself isn't symmetrical, if you make it more symmetrical on the painting, I find it tends to work. So the center line is slightly off center. So that's the middle of the panel. The center line of the vase is slightly off center. So let's say that's the center line. That's about how far it goes out to the right. I'm not even that bothered if it's perfectly the same as the one in the picture, as long as it's symmetrical. So, you know, then measure that and replicate it over the other side. You know, that should work pretty well, hopefully. The base will come out to about here. And really, brush isn't going where I want it to go. It's nothing to do with my hand, of course. I love the colour of this vase. I mean, I chose this one specifically because I loved those blue greens, low chroma, like blue greens, with the oranges and pinks of the roses. See, interesting here, see, if you squint down, you can't really see. There is no line that defines the edge of the vase and the background. I always look for things like that because I like to bring them out even more strongly in the painting. That's an edge I'm going to destroy. I'll paint right across it. The values are really, really close. There's a slight difference in colour, but not very much. Not very much at all. Just bang it in. By that I mean I'm not bothered if anything looks like anything at this point. I just want shapes. I just want to know that everything is in the right place, and then hopefully things will kind of take care of themselves when we get to that point. So once I've got this done, I'm going to put in a little bit of background to give me some reference for when the colours go in, and then I'm just going to go hell for leather with the colours, and we'll see what happens. What I'm after with this painting, I think, at the moment anyway, I mean, you never know how they're going to go, do you? But I think what I'm after is a kind of a freshness and a breeziness to it. The colour scheme, I think, is going to lend itself to that kind of treatment. Should we rough out where the leaves are? Just as basic shapes. Just give me an idea where they're going to go. I'm going to give myself just a bit of an idea of the form of the roses, like. So this is all the center, the shadow. Then we've got kind of a cup. I like to think of these kind of roses as cup and saucer roses. So this is like the cup. And then there's the petals on the outside. I heard them once referred to as guard petals. They're kind of, here's my cup. And then we do the saucer, which obviously is broken into different petals, but like this, but it's basically the saucer. And I like to think about those forms as very separate right from the beginning. This one. I've got a nice clear division of shadow and light there on this one as well. And on this one, actually, there's the light to shadow. Looks like a lot of meaningless marks maybe at the moment, but it's giving me a rough idea where I want to be. Lisa says, I see you didn't tone it. Any reason for that? Yeah, just because I want to keep the colours really fresh. I want this to be a more sort of alla prima feeling. I could have toned it first with a neutral and then wiped out and then painted. A couple of times recently I've just gone in and done pretty much alla prima. I like both methods, to be honest with you. They do give a slightly different effect, I think that's fair to say. Renee, hi. Why did you not do an imprimatur as the base? Yeah, same, basically because I just want this to be really fresh and kind of alla prima, sort of breezy. I'm not saying it's, or direct painting would probably be a better way to say it. I'm not saying I'm not going to do more than one session on it. I refuse to be pinned down. Francis says, how do you affix the panel to the board? Everyone always asks me this. I stick it on with blue tack. Seriously, that's it. It doesn't work with big boards, but only with little ones. Hello, Judy. Good to see you. So, Michelle, if you haven't already, please, so I showed chromaMagic at the start there. Please do, put the URL in or you know, let people know where to download it. It's the most amazingly useful app. It really is astonishing. I've got it here on the phone, actually. Look, you can run it on the phone. And I can put it on the tablet and you can see it while it's running. And I've got this up on it already, look. So, you know, so I wanted to know what the background was like. Maybe I can show you this, like. This is the other thing that it's very useful for. If I wanted to know exactly what this background, that bit of background there is, you know, it shows me here and I can tap on it, make it full screen. That's the color. It's like it's basically gray. Cool, huh? What about right in the middle of the roses? Right in the middle. That's a strong old orange, isn't it? Oh, look. Yes, I've been playing already. Let's tap around, you know, you can tap around the vase there, tap on the ribbon. You know, now obviously you don't want to exactly match every color. I think the real strength of this app is that it keeps you from making a lot of color mistakes that people make very early on. You can reduce this just to value, you know, and it will, and you can decide that how many shades of value you want. Like, how cool is this? I mean, just look at that. You know, that's 12 steps. Reduce it down. 7. Reduce it down. 4. And then if you have one of these, a Munsell value scale, you can directly translate those values to the value scale, stick them on your painting, and your values will be right. The reason I think this is so powerful is, as I was saying before, it's not just that it allows you to get ever closer copies of photographs, right? If people want to use it for that, and I'm sure there are a minority of people that will, then fine. But this app is color training for your brain. It changes your perception of color. and makes it more accurate. Stops you spending years and years and years in frustration. For me, right, I'm just going to talk about this while I'm mixing. What's the value there anyway? It's about a value 6. So I'm going to mix a near neutral for the background. Need more white. I mean, when I first started out, this is going back about 20 years now. When I was really into art when I was a kid. I'm not 20, that was more than 20 years ago, obvs. But I was really into painting when I was a kid. Worked as a mural painter for a while. I survived by doing street art for a long time, copying old masters on the street. Tiepolo was my favourite. Let's check my value. I know I want the value 6, right? Let's check it. Pretty good. Pretty good. We need a load more of that though. And Da Vinci, Caravaggio, Giordano. I copied a lot of paintings in chalk, you know, and then it would rain and they would disappear. And then my life kind of went in a bit of a different direction. I've always had, I don't know if this resonates with anyone, but I was, let's say my artistic leanings weren't encouraged quite as much as they might have been, I feel anyway, when I was young. And I always had, and sometimes think I still do have, some issues with that confidence. And so life went in a different direction. I actually learned to become a programmer. I did music for a while. And then I went to Venice, saw a painting, Tiepolo painting, a ceiling painting, which I had personally painted, copied many times, knew really, really well. But I'd been copying it like 10 foot by 12 or something, and this thing was a ceiling. It was huge. Astonishing. I sat down and I cried. At the time I was working in digital marketing, I know, right? I'm putting these colours down here to give me a reference. Just want to get something down so that when the colours of the roses start to go down, I've got something for them to work against. And I thought to myself, why am I spending my time? At the time, what I was working on was getting websites to the top of Google. I became quite good at it. You know, it was pretty soul destroying. Darker on the other side. Bring a little bit of chroma in as well. Too much. And, you know, seeing this incredibly beautiful painting, it just hit me like a train that I'd been wasting the last however many 10 years of my life. And I was supposed to be a painter. I always wanted to be a painter, so why was I doing something else? So this is going back like almost 20 years now, I think. So I got home from the holiday and I set up a website, learningtosee.co.uk, which is still there. And I started learning. I decided I was going to learn. I thought it might take me a couple of years maybe to get up to speed again. A couple of decades it took. And I'm still not satisfied, still trying to improve. The journey never ends. Got to think for a minute. So we're into shadow over this side, so I brought in a little bit more chroma, probably a little bit more, a bit cheeky, a little bit more than is actually in the photo, but I know that this will work nicely. So, you know, I'm putting it in. No one can stop me, it's my painting. I tell a little lie in the chroma for the sake of the picture. And so I started painting, and you know, immediately I was horrified, because in my head I still thought of myself as a painter, as an artist. You know, that's how I still thought of myself, as being the one who was good at art. And I knew, you know, I got very confused by art school, because it was in the 80s when I went to art school. They threw me out, actually. And it was all, Tracy Emin was coming up, and the Shark Man, whose name I thankfully forget most of the time. And that was the kind of thing that was the dominant form, if you like. I just wanted to draw. I was really into drawing rocks at the time, and didn't get on with it at all. That's also is part of the reason why life went in a different direction. But when I came back to it, I realized pretty quickly that, oh, I completely forgot to change back. I'm so sorry. The camera. I completely, sorry, I've just been putting these on. This is why I've been reminiscing and not watching the comments. No doubt you're all sitting there saying, Paul, you need to switch the camera back. Basically, I started here and then I did this bit, and then I'm just kind of getting these colors in. Give me a starting point. Cover the white. So you got to watch my palette for a very long time whilst I was chuntering on. Sorry about that. What have we got down here? We're quite a lot lighter, aren't we? You know, I think I might put the vase in before the roses. I think that might help. That'd be a good idea. The biggest struggle that I had, I mean, I couldn't draw accurately. That was a shocker. Probably partly because I'd never really learned, and partly because you know, what skill I had probably atrophied a lot by then. But what I really struggled with was colour. It was so hard. You know, I just couldn't seem to see the colours. I couldn't seem to judge them right. I couldn't even figure out what they were. And then when I tried to mix them, you know, I did the usual thing. I followed the advice, like get a limited palette of the primaries and go from there. It's like, I just couldn't hit the colours that I could see. I wanted to paint flowers. I wanted to paint fruit. You know whose painting I really loved back then, who I came across about the same time I started my blog, a little bit after that, was Julian Merrow Smith. You know, he was part of the burgeoning daily painters movement back then, which was new, you know, and fresh, that Dwayne Keyser had started. And he was producing these beautiful little still lives. But I couldn't seem to get the colours right. I tried a lot of different things. I tried a lot of different palettes, primary palettes, split primary, CMYK. You know, this tool here could have saved me years. That's the point. Get another brush for this bit here. So I'm trying to keep everything pretty low chroma at the moment. Let's get a rougher one. Generally, at this stage of the painting, I want big brushes. I don't look at the comments now, because I know you're all going to be saying, Paul, switch the camera. What are you doing? You know, it's really tricky judging these colours against the white. Sorry, I've gone off on a different thought now entirely. That's another thing that this thing helps you with. So I'm emphasizing a little bit with this mix, the orange that's going to be there in the flowers. Not madly, just a little bit. Mix between those, bring it up. Got a little bit of shadow there. So that's my story of how I came back to painting and how I struggled. And all of the blog posts that I wrote back then, they're still there, you know. There's something like 500 blog posts of my entire journey. One day I should really sort it out so you can navigate it and find them all. I've never really done that, and it's probably a bit of a nightmare trying to find your way through it now, but it is all still there. So check my value. This value scale is the Paul Cantore value scale, which you can get from eBay for $10. $10. I mean, it's, you know, brilliant, next to nothing. I know I want about a value 6 there. That's looking about right. It looks darker than it is because I haven't got any colour in there. I feel like I want to kind of throw in some colour on the vase, just a sort of placeholder for now. What I'm trying to do at the moment is, I call it building the space. And that's how I think of it. Creating the environment that everything is going to sit in. So now I want to be pretty dark. It's greenish, but close to grey. I don't want to go mad with this. I was saying everything is very low chroma. I'm tempted to try the Fantan thing of putting in just a little dash of higher chroma here and there just to see what happens. Should be about value 4. That's a bit light. And also when I put it on, it's going to be a bit higher value because it will show through. I'm gonna brave the comments and see you all laughing at me for forgetting to change the camera back. I'm sorry. Oh dear. There you go. How is a Fantan name spelled? Fantan you got right. And then it's L-A-T-O-U-R. I think one of the things I really love about his paintings is the way that he manages to I was showing you earlier on, to show the form of things, to create the form of things with almost no detail, like really almost just like abstract shape. Darker value down here. Then we get a little lighter and we go more blue-green. So this is the edge I want to lose here. So I know I want to be about the same value there. Just for fun. I'm not going to go mad with the chroma here, but I'm going to put in, oh, you know what, I need some blue on there. I need a little bit of ultramarine blue. going to push the chroma a little bit here. Pushing it more and more blue. No, it needs to be more blue. Actually, I think I've probably got the wrong blue. Doesn't matter so much because it's low chroma, but I probably would be better off with cobalt in this mix, or that's a red blue, so I'm dropping chroma, or cerulean. And I think part of the green actually comes from, yeah, let's try that. What have we got here? We've got some cobalt. Very, very rarely use it. What's this? Thalocyanine, God no. Oh, actually, no, that might work. Thalocyanine blue, because it's a green blue. So let's try a little bit of that with white. I have a feeling that what I'm doing here is I'm thinking as I go, and I'm not explaining what I'm doing. I want to try and pop in. Oh yeah, look at that. I want to pop in just a little bit of higher chroma, just to see what happens, really. I mean, obviously that's a bit too much. Knocking it down. Any bits where you would say, well, there's a bit of higher chroma you could possibly put in. And whether, having something like be mostly low chroma with just a couple of little notes of higher chroma, what effect that would have. You mount my lightest light in at the moment. So this here, this edge, I want to lose that. I do like losing edges when it's anytime it's possible. This is a soft, synthetic, flat. I feel like I'm being a bit selfish today, and I'm just enjoying painting, and I should really be. I should be keeping up with the comments a bit more. I'm sorry. Anthony says those bottle greys are a shocker. What's shocking about them? That they're so low chroma? Lead white, Mangerie, lead white. So Michelle says, thinking back to the Fantin Latour, she's thinking the brushstrokes look clumsy because he was standing right back when he painted them. Most likely, I mean, the only way it seems to me that you can get a visual effect without getting locked into detail is by standing back and, as we all know, squinting. I think it's safe to say, I agree with Ali and Michelle that Fantin's obviously onto something. Let's try it in the roses too. those little pop, mine are a little bit bigger than his, let's be honest, but those little pops of chroma, overall it was very dark. And then just put in some little areas of chroma, and it brings up the feeling of the whole. The overall feeling of chroma came up quite a bit there, didn't it, really, I think. This is why I love painting into oil, because you can move the paint around so easily to suggest things. Flower brushes. Everyone's going to be curious about what I'm using here. So these are Rosemary's Angled Eclipses. The reason I've got two is I'm going to use one for the light and one for the shadow. These are the 1/2" ones. I like these very much. Oh, look at this. I've been mixing very well, without much care and attention, and I've actually got phthalo blue and phthalo green in my white. So, you know, let's be clearing that off because it's useless now. Gets everywhere though, these staining pigments. They're very useful though. So there's still a gap where the ribbon is, but you know, I wouldn't put something in the flowers really. So thinking about flowers and simplifying, like, you know, down there in the middle of that flower, this one here, it's not all massively high chroma, but it's, you know, let's just get something in there to be like, to start to show. The darks, and then it comes out a little bit lighter. So I'm trying to think still of this form, like I'm trying to think of this as the inside of a cup. And yes, I'm squinting. See up there, it's like the chroma drops off a little bit, and I know that's going to be a darker value than I think. Almost grayish. It's very subtle, kind of a pinkish note to it. See, I think that's too light. If I'm looking at that against the background, it's hard to say for sure right now, but I think it should be more, like you should be able to see those petals against the background as being darker in value. I think it needs to come down. I think it needs to come down more. But there's still quite a lot of, this is the saucer. Still quite a lot of white panel, so it does make it more difficult to see how things are gonna end up. So I'm checking values as I go a lot of the time with the chromaMagic app. So if I'm looking at, I'll show you on the phone actually, the easy way to do it. Oh, you know what I should do? I figured out a way the other day to actually share my phone screen as part of the stream. I should figure out how to do that again. Let me zoom in here. I'm going to do a dangerous thing. I'm going to switch back to the palette so you can see this bigger. You know, this petal here I'm interested in, this part here. So I could zoom right in, you know, and click around a little bit and check, like, that's very low, you know, closer to grey than you might think, right? I mean, that, you know. There's some variation in there, there's some colour in there, but, you know, I'm after the main shadow colour. So I know the value is a 7. So on my value scale, let's find the 7. And even though it might look out, this is what I'm talking about, how this tool can help you kind of calibrate your eye. It's not your eye, obviously, it's your brain. Even though it might look a little bit out, when I put this on the painting, yes, I have remembered to switch back this time. I know that it's something like, right, you know, slightly lighter. In the background there. But really, really close. You know, it's, if you squint down, it's really hard to see the difference between that and the background. And there's a lighter area with a little bit of colour in it too. I found that a lot of the time painting like this, things don't start to make sense until you've got most of the panel covered. And then suddenly, if you're lucky, it starts to pop. If you're not lucky, wipe it off and start again. So now, as I'm coming up, you know, it's coming out towards slightly reddish orange. I don't want the chroma to be too high. So I'm thinking about, when I'm squinting down, I'm thinking about the big shapes. I'm thinking about the form, and I'm also thinking about the big shapes. So where can what I don't want to get into is just painting kind of abstract shapes, you know. Where is there a large shape that, you know, that I can reduce down? Obviously there's a huge amount of petals in there, but if I can get the general feeling right. So I know that this, like this area here, if you squint down, there's an area that has almost a blush to it, slightly higher chroma. It's lighter than this and it's lighter than that. Between these two, almost like a triangle shape, has slightly higher chroma. And if I can get this color about right, maybe a little lighter than that, it will just help. If I hit this note right, it will just help to help this to feel like the form is moving. This is the thing that I think is the most difficult with flowers. I mean, you know, if you've got this app, it will tell you what a lot of the colors are. One of the most difficult things is figuring out how to simplify the forms. And I personally, I think it helps a lot to conceptualize them as much as you can. You know, if you start thinking about this as a flower, then you're lost at this stage, because you're going to start painting petals and it's going to destroy your painting. You know, the colors will not work. Take it from someone who's done it many, many, many times. Wrong. The more you can think about these areas as just as shapes, you know, if I can think about trying to get this form right, so I've got my cup still and my saucer, the better it's going to turn out. Obviously, it's very loose at the moment, but I'm just trying to get these color statements down right. Anything that's going to help me read the form. There's a little bit of light that comes on the flower there, you know, if I bring that in. I don't want to get into painting petals, but there is some light there which might help the form read, you know, just where it comes around here. Need to bring that background up. So I'll swap between brushes a lot, like I'm back to my background brush, still got the color here. Let's do it just for a bit of fun. Let's try a Fantan high chroma. I don't want to go really, really mad, which I obviously can. I mean, we have access to much higher chroma paints than they had then. Yeah, a bit too much. Calm down, Paul. Oh, that was a mistake. I'm trying to, I don't really know what color I'm looking for because it's not a color which is really on the photo. Do you know what I mean? I'm looking for a higher chroma color that I can just pop in to give the impression here and there of something a little bit more. I'm going orange. As I say, I don't want to go really mad. I'm going to put it on with a round. Where would you put it? Probably like places where there's little areas of shadow. Let's push it a little bit. It does work, you know. It does make you feel that the whole overall is more chromatic than it's actually been painted. I'm not trying to paint petal shapes. Let's put the light in. I've done all of that so far with one brush, but I haven't got to the lights. It's a little bit almost kind of washed out the photo, like I overexposed it a little bit. I'm going to go thick. Yeah, let's get some thick paint on there for this. Sorry, I'll catch up with the comments shortly. I'm just having too much fun at the moment. So this is like the light side of the cup. There's some shadow in here that I'm going to attempt to work in shortly. I feel like that's too light. They seem to be going very much more orange, the slightly darker notes in here, especially around here. Yeah, orange. So this tool, I mean, you could use it to show you almost every color you want. I personally feel that would defeat the object. You know, I think the most useful thing about the chromaMagic tool is that it can show you, it can keep you from spending years frustrated, not even close to the colors that you want and not knowing why. You know? I think it can keep you, it can save you an awful lot of frustration. Yes, you can use it. There is a danger, let's say, that you could use it in order to try these yellow blushes here, lovely, in order to try to get ever closer to a photo. But if that's your thing, why not? I suspect for most people it's not. Most people want expression and they want life. Again, I'm not one of these people who believes that you know, my way of painting is necessarily the way that everybody should paint. It never surprises me how many people look at painting that way. I've never understood it. Yes, there is such a thing as what I would call skilled and unskilled painting. And I prefer skilled painting, definitely. But there are also, I'm aware that there are people who have make very different aesthetic choices to me, and I'm fine with that. You know, people who prefer to work in a very highly finished manner, people who work in a much more textural way than I do. You know, there's nothing wrong with any of that, as far as I'm concerned. Have at it. Is she coming? I think so. A little bit lighter towards the edge here, maybe. But here it's like the petal is almost the same as the background. I'm just going to mix a little bit of green. Actually, before I do, let me catch up with the comments. There's something about painting alla prima like this which is very involving, and it does make it a little, I think sometimes makes it a little bit harder for me to do quite so many things at once. Hey there, don't get too addicted. But thank you, that's a nice thing to say. It's got that kind of bright and breeziness that I wanted. I pushed the chroma a little bit in a couple of places. I think that's fine. I think I've probably got enough of that flower in to be able to think about moving on to the next one now. Let's soften her a little bit. Here and there. You know, mind you, Fantan did he? He would build up like a thick, what looks like a thick oily texture in the paint. I really want to get, I want to rough in this other flower, and then I really, really want to get that ribbon in. Roberta says, can you show a close-up of your value scale? Yeah, it's getting buried under brushes. Here we go. Paul Kentore Munsell value scale. So this works brilliantly with the chromaMagic tool. You know, so all of these here are different values of colors. You know, like what, say I wanted to know what the value was right in the center of that flower there. You know, this tells me it's here, which is, you probably can't see it, but it's telling me it's a value 4. There's my value 4. So I can mix a color which is, and actually put the dab of paint on this value scale to make sure I nail the value. And as everybody knows, value is the most important part of painting. If your value scheme works, your painting is going to work 9 times out of 10. You know, got some beautiful colors on the palette here, I've got to say. I'm very glad I became inspired by Fantan's color scheme. What was I doing? I've completely forgotten what I was doing. Let's just do the other rows. Good question. Lisa says, is the Munsell book now superfluous? I would say it still has its uses if you have one, but pretty much. Honestly, pretty much. I mean, personally, I've worked with Munsell a very long time. You know, I've got a book. I don't use it all that much now anyway. You see, I think all of this stuff is useful because it allows you to, you know, I mean, firstly, it saves you an awful lot of heartache when you're learning. It allows you to kind of calibrate your mental approach to judging colors so that you can get much closer much more quickly. It also allows you to build like a mental representation of the color space of paint, and you can then navigate your way around in it. So you can do things like this quickly. And if you can do things like this quickly, then, you know, get close to the colors quite quickly in the forms, then you have time to think about other things like that, the approach, like how you approach the covering the panel. Like I knew I wanted this one to be light, brushy and breezy, so I went in on a white panel without wiping out first, you know. I wanted the freshness, I wanted that alla prima kind of feeling to it. You can start to make aesthetic decisions because you've got the brain space free, because you're not struggling with trying to match those colors, you know. And either the Munsell book will work for you or this will. The difference, the Munsell book is $1,500 and this is $19, $20. That's what makes this so powerful. And also, I think it's come at exactly the right time, because most people now work from digital photos. It's been a slow shift, but most people now work from digital photos. That's what this tool works with. Digital photos. You know, I've pushed the chroma quite a bit. You know, you can see like the photo against my painting and the colors. I've pushed the chroma quite a bit. It's not exactly the same. You know, you can still make artistic decisions. It doesn't straitjacket you. That's a good question. Anika says, what is unskilled painting? For me, it is like, it's painting by people who haven't put the effort in to learn how to mix color. You can see that a mile off when you know how to mix color yourself. You can see a mile off if someone's really struggled to hit the colors. If someone can't draw with reasonable accuracy, doesn't understand form, you know, the basics, if that's not there. That's a lovely thing to say, Fran. The best thing about Paul's workshops is he doesn't teach you to paint like him. He teaches you to paint. Thank you. That's one of my prime considerations, is that I teach fundamentals. I try to teach fundamentals so that, so that you can then take them into whatever kind of painting you like to do. I think too many artists, when they teaching is a different skill set than just painting. And I think too many artists, when they teach, that was a good change. Deep, high chroma red in the middle. Too many artists, I think, you know, I'm just going to say it. I'm not obviously going to name any names, but just kind of paint and then talk about what they're doing. And the problem is, I think this is what I think anyway, you know, having had teachers in a variety of different areas of life, say, one of the things that makes the biggest difference between someone who teaches well and someone who doesn't is being able to empathize with the person you're teaching, to the extent that you remember what it's like to be in their shoes. You remember what it's like to struggle. You remember what it's like for that thing that you do without thinking to be incredibly difficult. You remember that. And you can find ways to get people over it. I think that's what makes the difference. That's, to me anyway, that's what I try to focus on when I'm teaching. And I hope it makes a difference, you know. But this, like, I've got my anchor colors down, you know, and I used the app at the beginning. But now I've got my anchor colors down. Everything is working in relation to everything else. So talking about simplifying, like, I know I want this main shadow shape, right? I'm trying to paint this as a shape. There's some variation of edges in it, variation of color in it, value, small variations. And I'm kind of working those in, but I'm mostly trying to make sure I hit this value low enough and I get that shape something like right. You know. Trying to simplify as much as possible. And then there's a light shape around here, so I'm going to try and hit the right color, the right value for that. I'm not using the app now because I pretty much know where I am. You know, I can adjust and paint with what else is already there. Much easier to see what's happening at this point. I'm still very consciously not trying to paint any petal shapes. I'm just I just want to see the colours. And the palette may look a little bit chaotic, but I know what each colour is and what it represents on there. And it is still generally, except for this bit here, dark to light. It does, I think it helps you if you're struggling with anything, or, you know, when you're starting out, well, not even just starting out, like beyond starting out, well beyond, just to keep your palette better organized, let's say, than I have here. a little bit better organized than I have. Probably a good idea. Trying to get the match of this value against the background there. Create that depression in the middle of the cup. Get some nice thick paint on here. One of the other things that I see people do a lot, which I try to find ways to persuade people to stop doing, is not to use enough. A lot of the time people don't use enough paint. You can't get the full range of expressive possibilities of oil paint if you don't have enough paint on there. You need to get to a point, especially if you're working like this, kind of like alla prima kind of, where you've got enough to be able to push it about, drag it around. What we're going to be, seems to go, this one goes more yellow as it comes down into the shadow, I think. My shadow colour's a little bit more yellow. My palette is getting a little bit chaotic now, to be fair. I should probably stop and sort it out. Just use my light brush for a shadow. I'm gonna have to change for a clean brush now. I'm always doing that. I start off with one brush for the lights and one for the shadows, and then inevitably at some point in the painting I end up with two medium value brushes. It's so annoying. I'm always doing it. I suppose, like, just thinking about when I'm putting these marks down, I'm being a little bit guided by the petal shapes that are there, but I'm trying to avoid getting into trying to paint them exactly, you know. Well, now I've got a darker light and an in the middle brush. I really want to see the green of the leaves, and I want to see the blue of this is the saucer, so there's a shadow here. The blue of the ribbon, I really want to see that in there. It's difficult, sometimes I find it difficult to be patient enough at the beginning of a painting. Like, I know how quickly rushing can spoil it. I just want to get things, I want to see those colours together. I want to see if they're going to work. This is wrong here. Got a high chroma color there where it doesn't belong. So I want to feel like I can sink my finger into the middle of it. I want to feel like there's a definite kind of you know, a depression there. I want to feel the space. I think I can bring up the background there. I'm tempted just to try to knock it even closer to neutral and bring up the value just a little bit there. So white, got my palette's a mess. White, a little bit more black, make it a bit cooler. In indoor light like this, you do have lights that are affected more by the direct light outside and will be slightly cooler, and the shadows inside will be, often will have a lot of what I call ambient light from within the room reflected into them, which makes them appear warmer, slightly orange in fact. Destroyed my white again, gonna have to rebuild that. I just want to bring out this shadow color here by pushing the background up a tiny bit in value and making it just a little bit more closer to neutral. So push the chroma a little bit here, I think, more perhaps than it should be. I think I probably don't mind. I'll probably leave it. That's brilliant. David says, I can remember struggling quite vividly. It was about 2:30. Yeah, I don't mean to give the impression that I don't struggle now. I mean, I do. I'm often struggling with things. Really, you know, it's not like that ever goes away. But there does come a point where you know, you can have the confidence to know that you can steam in with something and you'll be able to get the color something like. You know, I mean, this is very roughly painted at the moment, but I'm mostly interested in like the overall effect of the color, the lightness and the breeziness. Would likely go in with another possibly let it dry and go in with another session and refine some bits, but then you never know if you're going to lose some things when you do that. But I think probably not with this one. You do make me laugh though, David. It was a good one. Oh, that's a good question. Rena says, how do you get your phone to take accurate colours when photographing a still life? My phone is always off on certain colours. You need to get into the manual settings on your phone. I mean, I don't really have time to go into it in a lot of detail, but if you take it on automatic, it generally won't work so well. So you do want to be getting into the manual settings. Make sure you have mess about with the ASA. Makes a big difference, and the white balance. Phones don't always have a white balance feature, but they often have a kind of a filters that you can use that will help with that. I'm wondering about this darker bit here. I could make that darker or drop the chroma, but I think I'm going to leave it how it is. I think I like that how it is. Getting close to the point where I'll have the panel covered, and I can really start to see if I think those colours are working well. We're not far off now. I'm slowing down because I can see that there's more in there, and I'm wondering, is there anything that, when I'm getting towards the end of a painting session like this is probably getting there, I start to think about, if I left this now, what would be a nightmare to work on tomorrow? Is there any transitions that I would really struggle to be able to make work on a second session? Joanne just got chromaMagic. Well done. I should let everybody know who's watching, by the way, I have absolutely no financial interest in chromaMagic at all. Michelle is a friend, and she's has learned with me quite a bit as well. But she's a brilliant watercolorist in her own right, which I can't do for toffee. I don't know how you managed to do that. But I really am just recommending it because I think it's astonishing, amazing, and incredibly useful. I want to start refining the flowers, but I think it's too early. I do want to do it, but I think it's too soon. I've got no white left. Paul, stop. Stop. Put some white out. I'm just catching up with the comments now. Judy, what a lovely thing to say. Judy says, spending this time with all of you is like living in a better world. Thank you so much. Lisa, so just the lights would be thicker paint? Generally speaking, I do go thicker in the lights, yeah. Yeah, it's a way to create more of a convincing feeling of form. You will always find painters who don't do that, I'm thinking of, oh God, his name escapes me. Such a brilliant painter, and he paints really thick darks. Scott Burdick. Brilliant painter. And you'd look at his darks as thick as his lights, so that you'll always find people who manage to make something else work. But yes, it does create more of an illusion of space and depth, of three-dimensional form. Kate says, how are you avoiding dragging paint off when you paint over a previously painted area? Is it because you have plenty of paint on your brush? Mostly, yeah. Yeah, mostly, yeah. And also you can, after a while, I think it's really a good idea just to practice brush handling on its own, brush calligraphy. And I did actually spend a lot of time practicing traditional Chinese brush and ink painting, and it gave me a really good feel with the brush. So, you know, if you can put the paint down and then affect it after it's down in the way that you pull the brush away, like if you pull the brush gently off as you pull it away, then it will just start to blend with what's underneath. And you can affect the value that way. Try to paint as much as I can with actual brush strokes, you know. Deborah says, do you ever paint with water-soluble paint? No, not because I have anything against it. I guess I'm just happy with what I'm using. Thank you for nice comments about the painting, everyone. Oh, Eileen, yeah. Eileen says, I've never grown roses, but I think these are the prettiest I've seen and I want to try. Did Paul mention the variety? Yes, indeed. These are David Austin roses, and the variety is Bathsheba. Really, really beautiful. Anthony wants me to do the leaves. I know what you mean, Anthony, but you know, I think you're probably right, because they're a lower value. I want to do the ribbon, but it's not going to change very much, the ribbon, is it? It's not going to change the painting very much. And the leaves will. Oh my. Sorry, too many comments really for me to keep up. You know, Anthony, you're right. We need some greens. We definitely need some greens. The famous Foxton green recipe, black. A green yellow, this is Aralide yellow. You know, most of the way there just with that. let me make the palette full screen. Hopefully you'll be able to see this mix. Yeah, just down in the corner. I know the photo gets in the way a bit. So they're quite yellow-green, the leaves on this particular rose. But I kind of feel like it would be nicer if they went a little bit more towards a blue-green. So let's send them a little bit that way with some phthalo green. More black, because I need to get down to the lowest values. Deepest shadow parts, the leaves where there are any. Usually, like for the lighter parts of leaves, the undersides can be quite a lot more chromatic. Generally speaking, I'll go up with a little bit of yellow and some white to drop the chroma slightly, because the chroma usually drops a little bit in the lighter parts of the leaves. That's probably a bit too much, more yellow. Am I mixing off the... Yeah, I'm gonna take the reference photo off for a second, just so you can see how I model. How I model the form on the palette. So here is the shadow. These are the kind of the middle values of the leaves. As I'm going up into the light, the values never go as high as you think they do. I've lost a little too much chroma. They go quite yellow in the light, these leaves. The value I'm at there is probably about a 5. They rarely go much higher than that. So that's probably enough, like a value 1. This is be about a 2, 3, and that's about a 5. Should be all I need, pretty much. Shadow, local, and light. palette is getting quite chocker now and ready for a clean off. But we have most of the painting locked in. Roberta, you're very welcome. Wood carving is a brilliant thing to be doing too. Let me get a fresh brush for leaves. We'll try this one, Rosemary's Ivory Flat. This is a size 4, Ivory Long Flat. I didn't like these for a long time. I thought they were too springy and not soft enough, but I'm kind of liking them now. Maybe I'm painting with a bit more energy or something, I don't know. Could be. So I can mix between these colors to get the value that I want. How long have I been going now? I feel like I might have been painting a bit longer than I intended. Thought I might be on for an hour or so, but you know, when you're painting, like, you know, paintings take time to put together. What I'm trying to say, I suppose. Value-wise, I feel like that's a bit light. Bring him down. Yeah, see, this is going to be the darkest values on there, so it's going to recalibrate all of the values. Good thinking, Anthony. You were right about putting the leaves in next. Probably should have put at least a note in earlier. I don't think I've struggled particularly on the values, but might have been a good plan. Trying to be very intentional about the shapes, not just to paint a random mental idea of a leaf. Hello? Yeah, what is it? Okay, all right. See you in a bit. They do change things, don't they? They do change how everything feels. My shapes are not brilliant. But quite often, if you're lucky, you can use the leaves to kind of show like a hard edge and to show a bit of shape as well. the edges of things, if they're carefully drawn, sometimes can give it an impression, a little bit like those flecks of high chroma color. They can give an impression of the feeling of the form of the rest of the object without actually having to paint it so much. Hello, Maya. Nice to see you. Yeah, thank you. No, the variety of roses is Bathsheba. They're David Austin roses, and the variety is Bathsheba. Manjari says, deer eat ours. Yeah, I know, right? At the last place we lived, they would come in the night. And at the first time it happened, I thought someone had been round with a grudge against us with a pair of scissors. They'd been so neatly trimmed. Apparently they're like chocolates to deer. they just love them. That's it, Carolyn, yeah. David Austin, Bathsheba. Hillary, I don't want to put you to sleep. I need to clean off a bit of my palette now, and I need to make some space because I want to get the colours for the ribbon in. I'm starting to tire, so I know I need to be careful at this point. We've got low chroma, blue greens, very low chroma. I'm starting with black and white because it's a blue. Give me a low chroma grey. I'm just looking for like a target place to start. A little bit of the phthalo in there. Definitely two blues, more green. Bring some yellow. Bring some green gold actually, so the chroma doesn't get out of control too much. Chroma is out of control. Raw umber, bring it back down. Yes, definitely too high. Black. Raw umber. White. I can feel that I'm not thinking so clearly about my mixes now. Dangerous. I'm stabbing in the dark. I need to slow down. Bringing the chroma back down because it's way too high. Let's think about the values that I want in there. I know that in the shadows it's going to go more towards a yellow-green because of the ambient light in the room, and it would be slightly more towards a blue-green in the lights. That value is about a 5. Darker, it's a 4. Let's bring that up to a 5 so I've got a good middle value of this colour. I'm bringing it very close to grey. Yeah, it's about a 5. Very near neutral. Now, ribbon, funnily enough, it may surprise you, but it's something I've never actually painted before. Anthony wants me to drop the chroma in the background on the right. No, I made a decision to keep it earlier on. I like it. It is a little higher than the photo, but remember that we're not trying to make a photo. I like it having a little bit more chroma there. Are you using your value scale, says Stuff Q? Yeah, sometimes. I mean, again, it's like with the colour and the Munsell, like a lot of the times I was out then, but a lot of the times I can judge a value pretty close now these days. It's not, you know, I think that's what intuition is. It's when you practice something to a sufficient degree that the mental processing becomes to a greater or lesser extent unconscious, and you just do it. That's kind of, you know, how intuition works, I feel personally. Should I go? I want to put in like a shadow shape first. Let's get a good brush for this. Smallish flat, synthetic flat. Bit cool maybe for shadow. Put some raw umber and green gold in it. So this, do I need to paint the whole shape? I will, I think. I'll put it in. This is like, no, it's too much chroma. The shadow of the loop. I really like these blue greens against the oranges. That's what I've been itching to see happen. So this was, the overall design was deliberately kept fairly light in value. Quite often I have quite dark backgrounds full of shadow. I knew for this one that I wanted it to be overall quite light. Just because of the kind of that, you know, I fell in love with that Fantin Latour painting. I've seen it many times before, but I just came across it again. And someone sent it to me. So I'm putting together this workshop at the moment where I'm teaching using the chromaMagic app, although you don't actually have to have it for the workshop. It would certainly help. Teaching flower painting, light and shadow colors, brush handling, color design. I'm going to be looking at a collection of the most beautiful historical flower paintings we can find and analyzing them for color using the chromaMagic app. I don't mind telling you, I'm really, really excited about this workshop. It's 8 weeks. It's going to be really in-depth. More so than I think any workshop I've given before. Be live critique sessions as part of it too. And it's actually, it's open for sign up now. I'll pop a link in there. I just opened it yesterday. I'll pop a link in the chat messages if anybody's interested in coming along and painting. So there'll be 3 flower subjects. And then we're also going to be looking at color mixing, color design. I think lower value here behind. Judging accurate colors for light and shadow, this kind of thing. I'm going to include a library of reference photos, these kind of reference photos that I'm working on now to use as well. And the usual, like we always have, my workshops, we always have, it's actually my favorite bit, a community group. Not on Facebook. Moved off Facebook a long time ago. I feel like I'm starting to arrive with this. Painting now. I think it's going to take another session. I think the colors are working nicely. I've pushed the chroma maybe a little bit too much here, but I think I've got enough of a foundation. That's the word I was looking for. Sorry, I zoned out a minute then. Enough of a foundation to see, you know, how it's working. I'll be able to, I think, what would I do more on this? I think I'd resolve the flower forms a little bit more here and there. I think they need, the edges, it needs a bit more work on it, the flowers especially, just to bring out the edges more and clarify the forms a bit more, I think. That's what I would mostly want to do. I don't want to go in there and paint a lot of petals, I don't think. Don't really feel that's gonna make it especially better than it is now. But just to resolve some of the kind of, there's a few bits that are looking a little bit kind of random at the moment that I feel like are not clarified enough, not working really well enough as form and need to be knocked into shape a little bit. But it's coming. And I'm reasonably happy that I managed to get through this far in a single session without completely falling flat on my face, arguably. Listen, so this workshop, it's going to start on the 25th of June. We're going to be doing paintings like this. We're going to be looking very closely at colour design. The kind of thing that I was showing you at the beginning of the stream, you know, if you've come in late, then the colour scheme for this painting was derived from Fantamour painting, really beautiful. Although that's where pretty much the similarity ends. I mean, obviously he's a much better painter than me. Kind of feel like this is coming to a nice place though overall. It has a nice, it has that kind of freshness that I wanted to get with it, I think. So yeah, there's a discount on this workshop, which is going to run for a couple of weeks yet. But also what I'm going to do is, for people who sign up early, it's probably going to be early next week now. I think I'm going to do like a live critique session, like a bonus live critique session. So I want you to bring your flower paintings, a flower painting, as you're working now. So I can give you a critique of it and give you some advice on where you might want to focus in order to improve, which will hopefully then help people make the most of the workshop. And I need to stop talking about it and put the link in the comments, don't I? I'm really zoning out with this painting. I'm sorry. Let me find the chat and I'll put the link in. So this workshop is it's open now for sign up, so you're very welcome to come and join. It's just shy of $300, but there's a $70 discount which is going to run for the next week or two, and we're going to go really deep into flower painting and color design. Also different approaches to value balance, how values affect the chroma that you can use that's available to you, and that side of things too. I need to work some more on this top rows though. See, this is the chroma is a bit high. I don't really want to bring it down too much because I kind of like it being up there. Yes, I've pushed it. I admit it, it's a chroma crime. But I quite like it. I want to bring this value down a little bit. Just in this part of the rose, and I can't avoid losing a bit of chroma to make that happen. Still haven't really painted any petals yet. happy with this. I softened this edge and now I wish I hadn't. You know, what does it need there? It needs a little bit of light coming around the top of it. Not too high value. But you can see the rim of the cup, and I don't have it there. I kind of feel like maybe I'll work on this some more this evening, because I feel like I might not. It's hard to tell with paintings, isn't it? But it might not need an awful lot more. To be close to what I would think might be actually finished. Sometimes a painting, you know, would look like it's very unfinished and would just need like a really small amount of work to kind of bring it to the end. This may be one of those. But at least I got the panel covered, and I feel like the colours overall have worked out pretty well. Inevitably, once I stop for a little bit, there's my tummy rumbling telling me it's dinner time. Inevitably, once I've stopped for a little bit and then I come back, I will see things that I'll immediately want to change. It's just like part and parcel of painting, really. And that's the problem always I find with alla prima paintings, is that come back to them and I think, well, why did I leave that bit like that? It's probably because I was thinking about another bit somewhere else and just wasn't thinking about that bit at the time. This is a bit annoying field here, too strong. And it's not really showing any form. It kind of shows the edge of the vase here, but I don't want that standing out so much, don't think. Something, it's like it's pulling my eye. Well, I don't really want it to do that. I want you to know that the ribbon is there without it being like distracting. I think probably one of the major discoveries for me today has been the playing with those little flecks of high colour. I've lost a few of them through overdoing it, but they're still there in the vase. And there's still a few in the roses as well, and I like that. I think I do like that. And I'm tempted in another session to try some of the thick kind of textural paint in the roses to try and create that similar feeling, but it's mostly about the colour. Ellen says, workshop sessions are recorded. Yes, you can paint along, or you can watch later. I also make all the videos downloadable, so I mean, you really do have forever access. You can actually download them and stick them on a flash disk or something and ensure that you would never lose them. As far as I'm concerned, if you buy a course with me, it's yours forever. You know, it's not like I'm going to give you access for 6 months and then take it away. That seems mad to me. My goal is to help you learn, you know. And also, some people buy courses and then do them quite a bit later. So there's that. That helped. One little bit of dark value. Susan is telling me another little light green leaf under the lower rose to the left. Is that because it's in the photo, so you think it has to go in? Or do you think I should just put one in there? This area needs resolving. It's kind of muddy and not clear what's going on there. That's the main thing that's worrying me about it at the moment. Thank you, Susan. That's a lovely thing to say. very welcome. Marion says, do you need someone to tell you to stop painting? Yes, you will know. People who've been following me for a long time actually do tell me in the comments when it's time to stop. Is this painting finished? Is it all right? You know, I mean, is that, have I done what I set out to do, or does it want some more? I feel like it wants some more. I feel like I need to resolve this area here. Maybe I want to work on the flowers a little bit more to give them a bit of form in places. The main form is there. I think that, you know, I'm fairly happy about that. But I do feel like it just, I want to, there's some vague areas that I feel need resolving a little bit, but then maybe it's all right. It's kind of like stopping and, you know, like I signed a pansy painting the other day, you know, the one I did on Friday in a live stream. I signed it on the stream, and then I looked at it the next day and I thought, you know what, that's not finished at all. I want to do some more, but I'm not going to, because I'm worried it will lose the freshness. Francis says, how does Munsell lower the value of chroma in his charts? Well, you're talking about two different things then. Value is dark to light, and chroma is how intense the color is. So you can lower the chroma, you can lower the intensity of the color, i.e. bring it closer to gray, without affecting the value. They're separate things. Rena says, I can't decide 8-week or the 6-week flower work. Well, the 6-week flower one is like, I'm literally just painting. I'm mixing colors. So that one, there's 6 subjects, and you get a painting video, and then generally a mixing video, and then generally 2 painting videos. It's all about spring flowers and freshness. This one, the Secret Life of Flower Paintings, it's called. It's a lot more in depth. A lot more in depth. Email me. I know we talked about it already, but Rena, just email me again. We'll have a conversation about it, see which is better for you. Send me some of your work, and we'll see. Yes, Simon says, the gap between the flowers feels a little indistinct to me, and it's right in the center of the image. I feel the same. I feel the same. This is the main bit that I'm looking at and thinking it needs resolving. The painting isn't finished. I think that's fair to say. I'm happy that I got as far as I did in the time, but I feel like it needs more, and maybe I'll work into it in the evening. It definitely needs, what I think it needs here, see, this part of the painting belongs to this flower. It's the saucer of this cup. And that the form isn't showing well enough. I feel like that needs bringing out a little bit more. You know, stems I generally don't bother with. Floaty roses, floaty light. Okay, I need to wrap up now. Thank you very much for coming, everybody. Don't forget to check out the workshop. I will be live again on Friday. I did have a plan about what I was going to do, and I've completely forgotten it, but I'll email you all to let you know what that one's going to be about and when it's going to be. Have a look at chromaMagic, everybody. If you didn't see the beginning of this live stream, which was, oh my word, over 2 hours ago now, I showed where the color scheme for this painting came from. I stole it from a very successful flower painter. Listen, I got to go now. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to go and get something to eat. I really enjoyed painting for you, and I'll see you again very soon.